Kuzangpo and welcome to a whole new edition of Bhutan This Week. I'm Tenzin Rabki. This week's top stories. His Majesty the King grants an audience to the US Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs of the US State Department, Ambassador Robert Blake. The National Assembly Speaker, Home Minister and the then member of Mongar Municipal Committee appeared before the Mongar District Court for the preliminary hearing of Gelpushing land allotment case early this week. The Supreme Court has directed the High Court and the Ministry of Works and Human Settlement to take administrative action against the members of the tender committee involved in awarding the work for the Supreme Court construction. His Majesty the King granted an audience to the US Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs of the US State Department, Ambassador Robert Blake, on Wednesday.
His Majesty the King granted audience to the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs of the U.S. State Department at the Lincona Palace. Ambassador Robert Blake arrived in the country yesterday on a 3-day visit. He is accompanied by officials from the U.S. State Department and the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi. Later, Ambassador Blake called on Inchijigmi Waitile at the Gelung Tsokhang. The two spoke of Bhutan's development process, food security, and Bhutan's goal to achieve cereal sufficiency and the political developments taking place in the country. Ambassador Blake said to have a responsible and a responsive government is one of the difficult tasks in the region. He congratulated Linchen and the government for the progress of development and for understanding the need to make themselves accountable in a responsible manner. Assistant Secretary Robert Blake also extended collaboration in education to expand relations between the two nations, to attract more universities from the United States for the education city, and for more Bhutanese to avail higher education in universities in the U.S. Deshin Wangmo, BBS News.
The National Assembly Speaker, the Home Minister and the then member of Mongar Municipal Committee appeared before the Mongar District Court for the preliminary hearings of Gelpushing land allotment case early this week.
Speaker Jimmy Sultram, Lempo Minjudoji and Dichin Singye were briefed by the court on the legal rights and the do's and the don'ts when the case is in the court. The next opening statement for the Speaker will be held on the 19th of December and for Dichin Singye on 18th of this month. The Speaker said he will not stand for any legal counsel or representative but be present himself during the next opening statement. Meanwhile, the Home Minister said he will be happy to represent himself whenever the court summons him. But he informed the court that as a Home Minister, he has responsibilities that he cannot ignore. Drangpon Gembodoji of Mongar District Court said all three charged under criminal offence have to abide by the law. Compiled for Cheche, this is Tara Limbu for BBS News.
The Supreme Court has directed the High Court and Ministry of Works and Human Settlement to take administrative action against the members of the tender committee involved in awarding the work of the Supreme Court construction. The order was given on Wednesday.
The Supreme Court found out that the tender committee had tried to favor Ngima Construction Company by awarding work of Supreme Court construction. This was done through manipulation and tampering of tender documents. The Supreme Court has given 3 months to the Ministry of Works and Human Settlement to take administrative action against the committee. The members of the committee were the former Works and Human Settlement Minister Kinzang Doji, former High Court Drangpen Jimmy Zangpo, and the Director of the Department of Urban Development and Engineering Services Rinchen Doji. The other members were the department's Chief Engineer Ugen Seong, Project Engineer with the Department of Urban Development and Engineering Services Funso Gelson, and the Director of Quality and Control Rinzen Namge. The former Executive Director of Construction Development Board Wangdi Gelson and the former Director General of Finance Ministry Tham Doji were among others. The Kichorin from MOWHS and Sonam Wangdi, the Chief Administrative Officer from Agriculture and Forest Ministry, were also the members. If the ministry fails to take action against the members of the committee within 3 months, the Supreme Court will issue a contempt of court order to the ministry. Contempt of court is a petty misdemeanor that includes prison term of less than a year to a month. The Yarkik Group, one of the bidders, filed the case of malpractices in tender process in November 2007. The ACC investigated the case after the Supreme Court asked it to investigate. The ACC submitted its findings and recommendation to the Supreme Court in May this year, which was approved by the court. Pemal Harden for BBS News.
The construction of houses on wetland has become an issue in Shonpu-gyeok in Tashigang. Some people have constructed houses on wetland without prior permission from the concerned authorities.
These are some of the houses built on Chushing or wetland in Shonpu-gyeok. Chongti village under the Shonpu-gyeok has the maximum number of houses built on wetland. There are around 5 permanent and 16 temporary houses built on wetland. This issue was tapped for discussion during the third Songkok Tsogdu meeting.
I informed them that if anyone wants to construct a house on the wetland, they should inform the concerned authorities in the Gyeok. But they did not bring any evidence to construct a house, so I had to put it in the Tsogdu for discussion.
This issue of people constructing houses on wetland has been there since 2002. The issue was never raised in the Songkok Tsogdu before. Constructing houses on wetland is illegal according to the Land Act of Bhutan 2007, but the residents of Chongti have their own reasons to build their houses on the wetland.
The officials told me not to build, but they said it is in the middle of the construction. I have a dry land too, but it is located on a slope, so it is difficult. That is why I built it here.
I was informed not to construct, but then I did not have any other option. My family does not own any house. Since I have so many children, I hope the government will grant us Kidu. I have no option. This is the only land I have.
Since I do not have any land, I bought this small land and constructed a house for my family.
The Songkok Tsogdu, after discussing the issue, decided to form a committee to address the issue.
The Songkok has no other solution. However, to stop this problem in the future, the Tsogdu has decided to form a committee with different concerned authorities to look into this matter.
According to the Land Act of Bhutan 2007, conversion of Chushing as residential land is allowed if a landowner with only inherited Chushing in his thumb may apply for 50 decimals in rural areas from such Chushing to the local authority in a format prescribed by the Ministry of Agriculture. Cheche, BBS News, Konglung.
The Bank of Bhutan has been accepting applications for new loans since last week, except for housing. The move comes 8 months after all financial institutions in the country suspended loan facilities.
The Bank of Bhutan decided to reopen its loan facilities after its cash situation improved this year. Last year, BOB had loaned out about 6 billion Yultrum against this year's 2 billion Yultrum.
Our fund position has improved, which means our balances with RMA has increased. By balances, we mean our deposits have increased and the repayment of loans have been steady. However, unlike last year, 2011, we do not have unlimited funds. As such, the available funds that we have are allocated as per sector exposure and region-wise.
While the bank will focus on financing productive sectors, it will also consider the personal needs of individual clients. However, in the housing sector, no new loans will be considered, irrespective of construction approval dates. This is due to the housing portfolio having already crossed the maximum exposure limit. For transport loans, the bank will finance those vehicles which are already inside the country and for which rupee would not be required. The revised rates have been calculated on a base rate which stands at 10.38%. A tenure and risk premium will be added to this rate for calculating the actual lending rate for various loans. The base rate, however, could come down as the bank's cash situation improves. Meanwhile, BOB has already sanctioned 95 million Nultrum as export loans to the regular exporters since November. Of these, 50% has already been disbursed with the new interest rates. In the meantime, financial institutions like Bhutan National Bank are still discussing of considering the loans.
In the case of BNB, we have not been giving loan per se, but maybe after January we will review the situation. And cash flow as such, right now we have a very good cash flow in terms of, but this is all short term. So there will be a huge withdrawal for the short term deposits in December. But we cannot give these loans, the short term cash flows for a long term loan.
He added that BNB will not be in the position to lend out in the housing sector as the bank has already given out over 30% of its total loan portfolio. With additional information from Somwongdi, Pemotsuki for BBS News.
The Druk Nyamrup Tsokpa, one of the aspiring political parties, submitted its application for registration with the Election Commission on Monday. The party also revealed former High Court Judge Jigme Zangpo as interim president.
After 40 years in the civil service, Drangpen Jigme Zangpo retired in 2010 and left to live in his village, Masangdaza in Mongar. It was his dream to move back to his village and look after his parents. And just as he thought it was Masangdaza forever, he was approached by two aspiring political parties. Almost 2 years in the village, now he is back in Thimphu as the interim party president of Druk Nyamrup Tsokpa.
I thought it is the call of the nation that I should participate in the democratic process to build the institution. And with that sole reason, as a senior citizen, I should play a responsible role to contribute to serve the king, country and the people. With that motive, I have decided to join, and now I am in Nyamrup. I am committed to serve the people.
The 62-year-old former Drangpen said he chose Druk Nyamrup Tsokpa because of its focus on community spirit. He said party's ideologies clicked with his own personal values and principles.
Party president is very important to provide leadership. But in our Nyamrup spirit, that is not important. What we believe in is in a collective and inclusive group dynamism. The whole essence of our Nyamrup spirit is that we will work together, we will include everybody for decision making, and there is no one-man show. And this is where we are going to head in. So that leadership is important, but not that important in building this vibrant political party.
For now, he has been named as the interim president of Druk Nyamrup Tsokpa, but he may or may not continue to hold the position. Druk Nyamrup Tsokpa said after their registration with the ECB, it will hold its first national convention and elect a new president. Compiled for Sonam Lamo, Sonam Phunso for BBS News.
Residents of Jemgang town are struggling with an acute shortage of drinking water. People drive for more than 5 kilometers to fetch drinking water almost every day.
Empty jerrycans lined up in almost every household. This is the scene at Jemgang town. For the last 5 days, residents in the town have been grappling with acute shortage of drinking water. With no other option, people started drinking water from the nearby stream, and hoteliers are the hardest hit.
Total godam hi 2 kilometer jigi sakle su gondi la
chu phale o su lo o phajo su jo bawo mi chuya
chugi kang le sin te to mi chi to nga chi mi sum be gop shabe zaila da taschi
lobdana chumi tari asna chu chuela tumbi yana kilometer jigi slam jo.
Every day, people travel some 5 kilometers towards Tongsa to fetch water for daily consumption. Municipal officials attributed water scarcity in the town due to the shortage of technical manpower and due to worn-out water pipes. In the meantime, the problem is expected to be solved once the rectification works between the municipal office and the contractor for the newly constructed drinking water project is complete. The new water project is being constructed with over 4 million niltam. Compiled for Pema Samrup, Sonam Hamo for BBS News.
The Pestalozzi International Village Trust in the UK will offer scholarships to 3 Bhutanese students every year to study in colleges in the UK. The agreement was signed on Wednesday.
Under the MOU, the Pestalozzi Scholarship will fly 3 Bhutanese students to study International Baccalaureate Diploma in the colleges in UK. Students from low-income background and who excel in math, science and English in their 10th examination will be chosen and placed with international students from 7 other nations in UK for a 2-year program. In coming week, 20 shortlisted Bhutanese students will vie for the scholarship in an interview that will be conducted by Pestalozzi independently.
So the International Baccalaureate programme, where you study your academic subjects, but you also do community action and service. So it engages youth and young people into wanting and encouraging them to make a positive difference to society, either in their own countries or anywhere in the world. And this is what our scholarship programme practices. It practices making and developing youth and inspiring youth to make a positive difference to the world.
Pestalozzi Trust is an educational charitable organization that places and empowers meritorious students to contribute in their communities after completion of the program. Sonam Phunso for BBS News.
The location of the slaughterhouse in Pelrithang village in Gosaling Gyok in Sirang has become a bone of contention between its owner and the Hindu community in the Gyok. Dzongkhag authorities say the matter will now be discussed during the Dzongkhag Sogdu.
This is the slaughterhouse in Pelrithang, Gosaling Gyok. At least 2 to 3 cows are slaughtered every day. It has been an eyesore for the Hindu community living in the locality. Hindus worship cow and said it is a sacrilege to live near a slaughterhouse.
The slaughterhouse is located in between 2 Hindu temples and a Buddhist temple. We would be very happy if the slaughterhouse could be relocated. It affects us a lot. We are not able to maintain sanitation. They discard unwanted meat carelessly and the dogs scatter it everywhere, defiling the whole community.
60-year-old Penjo owns the slaughterhouse. He has been running the business for 7 years now.
People have been complaining that my slaughterhouse is located in the middle of the community and temples, but it is not true. The present site was approved by livestock and agriculture authorities after a thorough investigation. It has been approved even by experts from within and outside.
The slaughterhouse was approved by Dzongkhag Sogdu 7 years ago following consultation with the people. Tsirang Zongdang Ngongpem said the matter needs to be put up to the Dzongkhag Sogdu again for discussion.
We have asked the Gyok administration to submit us in writing the reasons why they had no objections before when the slaughterhouse was being approved and why now. The owner of the slaughterhouse says he is willing to relocate if he is compensated. But it is not something that he can decide. The matter has to be discussed and resolved in the Dzongkhag Sogdo.
Some of the people of Gosaling Gyok even suggested if the slaughterhouse could be taken to another Gyok. But will the other Gyoks welcome the move is something that needs to be looked into. Compiled for Ishinerup, Sonam Phunso for BBS News.
Well, that was Bhutan This Week. Join us next week at the same time for a look at the week gone by. For now, this is Tenzin Rabge saying bye-bye and have a great weekend.